Welcome to the Kidmin Huddle with Amber Pike, where children's ministry leaders get equipped, encouraged, and empowered to disciple with intentionality, growing God's kingdom one child at a time.
Welcome back to the Kidmin Huddle. How many of you do movie days? If you have been following me for any length of time on social media, which if you haven't, where have you been, friend? You will know my potentially unpopular opinion is that you shouldn't be doing movie days. I think if we are showing a movie in class, we're changing our service time, we're using a film or a longer video clip, anything over 5 minutes, I think it's probably not the best. Why do I think this? Well, I have heard stories from people who use video heavy curriculum, and the kids who want to listen get really frustrated because not all kids listen. If you're not commanding the room well, if your volunteers aren't being trained on keeping kids quiet, the kids who want to listen aren't able to because kids are kids and they're disruptive and talking when they're not being forced not to. It also isn't the most engaging of things. I think that just popping in a movie in a group setting isn't the most engaging. I also just personally feel like there are a lot better use of our time, ways that we could disciple with more intentionality than popping in a movie. And I see this being really popular kind of in two seasons. One is the holiday season. Christmas time especially, I see a lot of movies happening. And then now, we're in summer when this episode is airing and we're low on volunteers. We might have just come off of really big events like VBS or camp and we need a break or we don't have the volunteers. So what do? We do a movie day. But I think we can do better. And this podcast episode is going to challenge you. What could we do instead of a movie day? Now, I'll give a little kind of caveat. Let's say there's a great faith-based film happening and it's brand new. Your church is getting the license. Maybe you're doing like a screening thing for it. I will say that could be a fun family activity, but there should be some equipping piece for families, right? Discussion questions, a devotion that goes with it, something like that to help them go deeper than just watching the movie. I'll also give the disclaimer that I am saying don't do movies as someone who once upon a time did movies. So my daughter, my 9-year-old, recently has gotten back into VeggieTales and discovered the cuteness of the movie Sweet Pea Beauty. I then found at my current church, so I was at another church when Sweet Pea Beauty came out, and we did back then VeggieTales did movie event kits. They would have a brand new movie and you could purchase the event kit, the movie, posters, stickers. This is back when silly bands were a thing. So I did this. I had a movie day at my church with Sweet Pea Beauty, the VeggieTales movie. And then I took the leftover stuff and I gave it to my mom's church, which is a church that I grew up at, which is the one that I'm back at. And it's still there. So my daughter now has Sweet Pea Beauty movie event posters. Fun side tangent. So I did do movie parties back in the day. Now I am older and wiser, and I am saying that we could do better. I'll even, in full transparency, the children's leader who am telling you to be intentional with your time, did a Disney movie party. When Brave came out, I did a movie party for the movie Brave, and I tied it to Jesus. I don't remember how I tied it to Jesus now. I do remember, and I still have the recipe in my recipe book because it was really fun. I made these like Scottish shortcakes with a cherry on top, and it was really fun. There was a purpose for it. I tied it to God. We were having conversations, but I did a movie party with a Disney movie. Now, the almost 40-year-old children's leader who's been in ministry since she was 16 would not do that. I think there are better uses of our time because we are keeping the goal in mind. Our goal is to disciple boys and girls. It is not just to make a fun activity or a fun environment for them. Kids can have fun with absolutely anything. I could just come in with a pile of cardboard and my kids would have fun. I need to do nothing other than give them cardboard. Fun is not my goal. We can have fun doing anything. I want to disciple kids. I want to help them grow in their faith. I want to use every second that I have at church with intentionality so that I am discipling them. And like it or not, in my opinion, I don't think movies do that. I don't think they're discipling in a group setting. Now, can you at home? For sure. You better attention span and listening, and you can have conversations. Yes. Also, I like movies. Movies are fun. I prefer the book. The book is always better. But movies for home, love it. Yes. Church setting, I don't. So a couple of different options for you. I'm going to give you some like really practical ideas, but first just let's address the why that we're doing movies. Oftentimes what I see, it's a volunteer issue. You're doing the movie party because you're out of volunteers. So suggestion number 1 is make a switch to a one-room style teaching. If you're short on volunteers, get everybody together and do a one-room classroom style teaching lesson. This is how I teach every single Sunday. I love the one classroom style model of children's ministry. I have all ages together. You need a lot less volunteers this way. In theory, you could do it with you as a lead teacher and a small handful of helpers, depending on how many kids that you have. So I would probably do, depends on my ages of kids, but I'm talking like me and one other adult for about 20 to 25 kids. That's way less volunteers than if you've got multiple classes, right? So scale how many volunteers that you need. Your volunteers could be teen helpers. Maybe it's your family. If you've got older teens that could come and help. If you're doing your lesson in a one-room class style, you need less volunteers, which has then negated the need for the movie party because you don't have volunteers. You still got to teach, but we should be teaching, not just entertaining. Because quite frankly, if all I'm doing is entertaining, why don't I just cancel? Which brings me to option number 2, cancel and have corporate worship instead. Our kids should have times when they are worshiping with the whole church body. Corporate worship is biblical. So if I am so short on volunteers or kids, maybe it's vacation season and nobody's going to be there, so we're just popping in a movie, cancel for the purpose of having kids worship with the entire church body sitting beside mom and dad as they are being discipled. It's biblical. I have a lady who I am coaching, and she did this in the summer. She did some canceling for family discipleship to happen. That's solving multiple problems. And it's training. We recently, at my church, we just had corporate worship Sunday. It was Communion Sunday, so our kids were up the whole time. And one of my kids is like, oh, again? And I reminded her, when you're a grown-up, you're going to be sitting through the sermon. You don't go to Miss Amber's class. This is training. We're getting to sit beside mom while dad's not in the picture. She's adopted. There's death in the family. It's a whole thing. So she's being raised by her great aunt, I think, and as mom. And I'm like, you get to worship. You get to sit beside mom and learn what communion is about. Corporate worship is important. And I think it is a wonderful alternative to movie day. And not just that, well, you're taking the easy way out. No, you're training children. You're having them worship the way that God designed church to happen, all generations together. So if you are having movie day because you're out of volunteers, there's 2 great options for you. Go one room or have corporate worship. So my other alternatives would be to rethink this kids event, because let's call it's a kids event, and think family discipleship. What could you do instead of just popping in a movie that all it's doing is entertaining, even if it's a faith film? Even if it's a faith film, realistically, you're just entertaining. Unless you are taking those extra necessary steps to make it something that is equipping parents to disciple, and there's that discipleship component. But I'm going to assume for the purpose of this podcast that that's not what's happening. It's just an entertainment or possibly fellowship event. So what alternatives could you do? Now, I love family events. I love family discipleship events. Other than VBS, you've heard me say, I don't do kids-only events. This is a wonderful alternative. I'll give you a couple of examples. About a year ago, year and a half, I was going to be covering my Sunday school class that I normally teach, plus the teenage Sunday school class and our parents class. Their teacher was going to be there because the mom teaches the teens, the dad teaches the adults. They were going to be on family vacation. So what do I do with all these age groups? I could have canceled for the sake of canceling. Now, this is the Sunday school hour, so there would not have been the corporate worship alternative. So I could have just canceled, but that's not very beneficial. I could have tried to teach one room, wouldn't have gone as great. Well, try to teach parents, right? Parents probably wouldn't have came. So I planned a family event during that Sunday school hour. This was my family time sticky faith event. And this was a pancake event. So I'm at the Sunday school hour, before church. So pancakes, definitely applicable timing. My mom came and made pancakes for us. I had my griddle and the pancake fixings and made it kind of like a pancake buffet where you got to pick how you wanted your pancakes to be made. Had tables set up, and on the screen, and then me kind of facilitating, I would be going through these questions. This was a time when moms and dads could have great faith conversations with their kids. I loved this event. I think I've told this before, so if you've heard this story, sorry, you're going to hear it again. If not, hey, fun story for you. When I was planning this event, which was birthed out of necessity, I needed something to fill this time with these multiple ages that I had to cover. We're a small church, so I was covering, it was me. My mom, I was telling her this event, I'm like, I'm going to be helping parents share their testimony with their kids. That's a really important part of passing on your faith, is your kids knowing how you were saved and about your faith. And my mom's like, Amber, this is a really stupid event. No one's going to like this. And I'm like, harsh. But my mom, I do love. She is so authentic, and she tells me if she thinks it's going to work or not. She's a great sounding board, super encourager. Couldn't be who I am today without my mom. Love you, Mom, if you're watching. And I'm like, I really think this is a really good idea. My husband's my other sounding board. He liked the idea. I'm like, I'm going to reach out to my sister-in-law. So I text my sister-in-law and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this event. What do you think? And I'm like, Mom thinks it's stupid. And she's like, actually, this sounds really amazing. And I'm excited because I've never shared my testimony with my kids, and I'm excited to do that. So we did it, and I loved it. It was a beautiful event, and it was so simple. Guys, I cannot stress the simplicity of this event. And you can go and purchase it from my website or Renew Nations, familyministry.org. And it's even more done for you because I did all the hard work with the slides. It was shop for pancake stuff, have someone to make pancakes, and plug in my computer, and then read the questions. So I would, be watching the clock and give a couple minutes per question. Boom. That's the event. But it was intentional, and it was helping parents pass on their faith, and the kids got to be part of the questions and stuff. It was lovely. So there's an alternative for you, something like that. Other things that I've done in the past is one year, this was before my church started doing Sunday school for kids. So I just had an event during the Sunday school hour. I tend to do them when I already have families coming. So I'll use that Sunday school hour, or I will stay after church with a meal. Those are my two family discipleship event things. But depending on how your church is set up, these could be useful during that movie night, movie time, whatever. It was for Easter. And we use the hour to make our family discipleship resource for Holy Week. I used the Holy Week Stones kit by Vanessa Myers at Family Faith Builders and had all the supplies set up and walked parents through, here's what we're doing. And they were making with paint markers and river rocks the stones that would be part of their Holy Week devotion. And it was such a fun activity. I had to buy paint markers and stones and print some stuff. Loved it. Another favorite I did was my Bible trivia game night that I just did recently. It was so much fun. So think of how simple that is, whether you're purchasing my event or you're just making up your own. Instead of a movie, could we do Bible trivia with parents and kids? Yes, we could. Think of these other things. What could we do instead of just popping in a movie that is going to disciple families or even kids? Now, I love the family discipleship events, but you could do a lot of these things for kids. So if I had just kids, so let's say this is during my church hour. So it's not an after thing. Parents are in worship. They're probably not going to want to miss main worship to do a kids event. Okay, could I do a Bible trivia event just for kids? Yeah, I'm going to, have them face off, boys versus girls. They'll love it. It's intentional. It's, working on those good skills. Bible sword drills. Yes. What about just a worship hour? If you follow Kidmin Corinne, which if you're not, you should, she talks about worship nights at her church, and she's got a whole glow night worship event. Man, instead of just popping in a movie that's entertaining, if I spend an hour engaging kids in worship, wow, that's a big difference in terms of discipleship. And don't tell me that kids are too young to worship, because they're not. Maybe you have kid-led worship, or you bring in a team. You pull your worship team. Worship is a much better alternative than a movie. So think about these sort of things. Could it become a service project? Could it be a paint and praise night? Paint and praise is so fun. Could it be a prayer themed activity? Could you set up a bunch of different prayer stations and have kids or families walk through prayer stations and you have a prayer night? There are so many. I'm just going to say it. If I hurt your feelings, I still want to be your friend. I'm sorry. There's so many better things that you could do with your time than just popping in a movie. We have to remember our goal. Our goal is to disciple boys and girls. We want to help to ground them in the Word of God. Colossians, I think it's 3, I'm really bad with references, tells us that we need to be rooted and established in Christ. We want to see that for our boys and girls, that they become like the wise man who built his house on the rock. It doesn't say that to be like the wise man who was really entertained. I completely get that sometimes ministry is complicated and messy. You don't have the supplies that you need, the volunteer that you need, the timing. I tell you this as someone who for years, a couple churches ago, I had one kid in my Sunday school class that showed up. So would it have been so much easier for me, instead of preparing my lesson for that one kid I had in that one age group? I was the 3rd through 5th grade teacher, and I had one kid who came consistently. Would it have been so much easier just to pop in a movie every week? Yeah, but I didn't. I prepared a lesson for my one little guy, his name is Joshua, every single week. And you know, he craved that one-on-one time. He loved that relational time that we got to have. I have had class with a handful of kids. I have done events with very few kids. I've done events with me and one other person. Not big scale like VBS. I don't think you can. But you can make a lot of smaller, simpler things that doesn't have to be just pushing play on a movie. And I really want to challenge you to this. I get it. When teachers call out, you are like, what do I do? That's why I have a backup emergency sub lesson for when I get sick. I think germs like to come on Sunday mornings, the early hours. You wake up with vertigo or you wake up puking, and I don't have a sub, or the laptop's with me, right? I have these things in place to where in an emergency, things that aren't just fillers, but they are intentional faith growers. So what could you do? Well, one, what's your why behind the movie? If you're showing a movie in class or as an event, why? Christmas time, I'm telling you, Christmas, I see it a lot. There are so many great Christmas movies. We as a family have like a holiday Christmas movie schedule. It honestly wears me out because we have so many holiday movies, and my husband prints off the list. There's a type list of them, and the kids go through and we mark which ones we want to see, and we all get a certain number of picks, and we have a schedule of the holiday movies. There are so many wonderful holiday movies. Yes. But are there better things that we could do than just show a Christmas movie to kids? Even if it's a Christmas movie that tells about the true story of Jesus? The answer is most usually yes. So what's your why? And then what could we do in place of? How could we equip parents to disciple their kids? How could we disciple kids, growing them in their faith instead? We can get creative. There are so many things that you can do with less volunteers, with less prep. It doesn't have to be crazy and intensive, but it can be intentional. So that's my challenge to you. Hey, I have made, with hyperlinks, some resources that you can go and do. Some of them is, there's, I think two that are just really good ideas. One of them is the corporate worship, but the rest are hyperlinks for products that you can go and purchase. Some of them mine, some of them not mine. To give you some ideas, you can go follow me on social media. I'm going to be posting about this this week. So it's July 14th. If you're listening to this afterwards, it's going to be on my blog. Go to amberpike.org. You can get this list, 8 movie day alternatives. I really just want to challenge you. What could you do that's discipling boys and girls? That's our goal. We want to see boys and girls become lifelong disciples of Christ with a long, life-lasting, deep and vibrant faith. And if you're doing a movie day, I want you to ask, is it accomplishing that goal? moving me towards that goal? If you have things that you've done instead that you really love, if you are rocking movie day and you're like, Amber, I challenge you, I can do it and disciple kids or families, I'd love to talk. Tell me how, what you're doing. If you have alternatives, family events that you've done, things that you're doing when you're low on volunteers, reach out, let me know. I had someone ask me recently, hey, where do you want this stuff posted? Anywhere. Email me, send me a message on my website, comment on my YouTube videos. I don't think you can comment on podcasts through like Spotify or something, but all my videos are on YouTube. You can reach out on social media. Guys, I'm not trying to like, she was asking like, where do I go for the SEOs? I'm not trying to be like super popular. I just want to help equip Kidmin leaders. So reach out anywhere that you can find me. Carrier pigeon's cool too, whatever. I would just love coming alongside you. I love talking children's ministry and family ministry. So like if you're doing something awesome, I'm just a curious person. I want to know about it. Reach out. Let's be friends. Challenge you. Think about your movie day. And while you're thinking about that, I want you to remember, Kidmin leader, what you do, even when you're low on volunteers or it's holidays, what you do matters.